It began with a knock that shook the front door like a battering ram. What started over a simple spare house key spiraled into a loaded gun pointed straight at my wife's forehead. The man on our porch thought he held all the cards: badge, vest, holstered pistol, and a bloated sense of authority. He had no idea the calm woman standing in the doorway had spent years teaching soldiers how to disarm threats exactly like him. My name is Robert Hayes. My wife, Ellen, and I live in a pleasant subdivision called Oak Ridge Estates on the outskirts of Charlotte, North Carolina. Brick ranch homes, wide lawns, basketball hoops in driveways, and an HOA that usually busies itself with rules about holiday lights and approved fence heights. We've been here 12 years, long enough to raise a family, watch kids grow up and move away, and settle into the quiet rhythm of retirement. That rhythm shattered on a cool Tuesday evening in early October. We were halfway through supper: pot roast, mashed potatoes, the kind of comforting meal that signals everything is right with the world, when the pounding started. It wasn't a polite neighborly knock. It was heavy, rhythmic, angry. I dropped my fork and looked at Ellen. She didn't flinch. She simply set her napkin down with deliberate care and stared toward the hallway with an intensity one recognized from rare moments in our marriage. I walked to the door, heart already thudding. Through the peephole, I saw a stocky man in his late 30s dressed in dark tactical gear, navy vest over a gray uniform shirt, duty belt weighed down with radio, cuffs, baton, and a drop-leg holster that clearly held a firearm. The patch on his shoulder read, Oak Ridge Community Security. His plastic name tag said Kyle. I opened the door just wide enough to speak. Can I help you? Security compliance audit, he snapped, feet planted wide, thumbs hooked in his belt like a highway trooper. Need your spare house key for the master registry. Immediate handover required. I felt my eyebrows rise. We didn't receive any notice about an audit. New emergency access mandate, effective last month. We have reports of unauthorized interior modifications. Hand over the key or the property gets marked non-compliant. Fine start tomorrow. His right hand drifted casually toward the holster. My mouth went dry. HOAs can be petty, but they don't send armed men to collect keys. Before I could form a reply, Ellen appeared beside me. She wore loose jeans and an old UNC sweatshirt, nothing that suggested danger, yet the air around her seemed to tighten. She studied Kyle the way a chess player studies an opponent, quietly, thoroughly. You're not a sworn law enforcement officer, she said. Her voice was low, even, almost gentle. It wasn't a question. Kyle's face flushed crimson. I am authorized community enforcement, ma'am. Step back and let your husband deal with this, or I'll note obstruction. You're trespassing on private property, Ellen continued in the same measured tone. You have no warrant, no statutory authority to demand entry or possession of our keys, and the bylaws you're referencing do not override North Carolina property law. Step off my porch. He leaned forward, invading the threshold. Big mistake, lady. When I come back, it won't be this polite. Ellen reached past me and closed the door with a firm, final click. The deadbolt slid home like a judge's gavel. That night's sleep didn't come easily. Kyle's parting shout, "You'll regret this," rang in my ears. I paced the living room, checking locks twice, peering through blinds at empty streets. Ellen, however, sat at the dining table under the soft glow of the chandelier, spreading out the glossy HOA letter that had arrived days earlier. With a red pen, she circled paragraphs, cross-referenced the thick community rulebook we kept in a drawer, and pulled up meeting minutes on the neighborhood portal. Within an hour, she looked up. The section they cite governs lawn maintenance and exterior paint colors. Nothing about interior access. The board vote they claim ratified this policy? Meeting canceled, no quorum. The entire demand is fabricated. Her phone buzzed. Caller ID, Barbara Whitmore, HOA president. Ellen motioned for silence, answered on speaker, and hit record. Barbara's voice oozed neighborly concern at first. Robert, dear, I heard there was a little misunderstanding with our security officer. The sweetness curdled quickly. We're just trying to keep everyone safe. It would be unfortunate if city inspectors had to examine wiring or plumbing permits. Those visits can get destructive. Just leave a key under the mat by morning, and we'll forget this unpleasantness. Ellen ended the call without a word and saved the recording as evidence_01. By By midnight, her expression had hardened further. Barbara's offhand threat about inspectors ripping open walls wasn't random. Something was concealed inside the homes themselves, something worth blackmail, threats, and armed confrontation to retrieve. At 2 a.m., Ellen touched my shoulder. I hadn't realized I'd dozed off on the couch. She was already dressed in dark running clothes, hair pulled back tight. Quietly, she whispered, "We're going for a walk." We slipped out the back slider, across the dew-wet grass, through the greenbelt behind our row of houses. Moonlight filtered through pines as we moved toward the clubhouse, a pretentious brick building meant to resemble a colonial manor. Lights burned in the back office. Cheap blinds left a 2-inch gap at the bottom. Ellen produced a small directional microphone from an old army gear bag. Through an earbud, the voices sharpened. "Barbara, frantic, the city inspector is scheduled for next Tuesday. If he cores a test hole in any master bedroom wall and finds asbestos insulation, we're done. Federal prison." Kyle, smug, "Relax. The husband's spineless. I'll have keys by tomorrow night." "Barbara, we skimmed $2 million swapping fire-rated wool for industrial asbestos. That money disappears if we're caught." Kyle's tone turned menacing. "Speaking of money, my cut just went up. 50 grand, cash, or I walk." A heavy metallic thud, something slammed on the desk. "New insurance," Kyle bragged. "Ghost gun, no cereal. If anyone resists." We withdrew silently, hearts pounding. The next day, Kyle escalated. At 3 in the morning, a blinding spotlight swept our bedroom windows. The doorbell rang in an endless pattern, 2 short, 1 long. I reached for the phone to call 911, but Ellen stopped me. "Dash cam running. He wants dramatic footage to paint us as unhinged." By dawn, our front door and garage were plastered with neon orange violation stickers. Kyle stood on the sidewalk loudly informing elderly Mrs. Lawson that some residents refused to follow basic safety rules. He caught my eye and smirked. "Tell your wife the clock's ticking." I wanted to charge out swinging. Ellen placed a steady hand on my arm. "Not yet." She dug deeper. Public records showed Kyle had washed out of the State Police Academy in week 3 and been rejected by 2 municipal departments. One psych evaluation labeling him narcissistic, prone to aggression when authority is challenged. Late afternoon brought the final notice, taped aggressively to our door. Authorization to use necessary force for entry at 6 p.m. sharp. Ellen's preparations were methodical. She changed into dark cargo pants, fitted long-sleeve shirt, and sturdy boots, no loose fabric to grab. She positioned me in the hallway behind the coat rack with a clear sight line. Phone on airplane mode. Record continuously. Do not intervene unless I'm incapacitated. The video is what puts them away for good. At 5:59 p.m., Kyle's SUV roared up, blocking our driveway at an angle. He exited slowly, adjusting his vest, hand resting on the pistol grip. The walk to our porch felt endless. Ellen opened the door herself, centering her body in the frame, hands relaxed at her sides. "Time's up," Kyle bellowed. "Step aside, or I execute forced entry." "You have no legal authority," Ellen replied calmly. "Leave my property." His face twisted. The pistol cleared leather fast, held sideways in one trembling hand, muzzle inches from her forehead. On the ground. "Now, I will shoot." I shouted her name, phone shaking violently. Ellen exploded into motion. Her left hand slapped the slide sideways. The shot cracked deafeningly, bullets splintering the porch column. Simultaneously, her right hand locked Kyle's wrist, thumb driving into the pressure point. A sharp twist, bones snapped like dry kindling. Her boot heel smashed the side of his knee. Ligaments tore with a sickening pop. 300 pounds of fake authority collapsed screaming. Before he hit the boards, Ellen had the gun. Magazine dropped, slide racked, chambered round caught midair and tossed into the grass. She pinned him effortlessly, knee in his back. "You have no trigger discipline, no stance, no right to that weapon," she said quietly into his ear. "I was a close-quarters combat instructor for the 101st Airborne. I've cleared rooms in places that would give you nightmares. You pulled a gun on the wrong woman." Sirens converged within minutes. Ellen had triggered the silent panic button 5 minutes earlier, timing police arrival perfectly. Real officers took a blubbering Kyle into custody as he begged for mercy. 2 doors down, Barbara was hauled out in handcuffs, silk robe flapping, shredded documents scattering like confetti. The evidence Ellen had compiled, recordings, forged letters, the clubhouse conversation, and my video of the assault, was airtight. Federal prosecution followed swiftly. 6 weeks later, the local news covered sentencing. Kyle drew 10 years federal time, no parole for 8, plus lifetime firearms prohibition. Barbara received 4 years and total asset forfeiture. Her mansion sold at auction to fund asbestos remediation throughout the neighborhood. A new, humbled HOA board was elected, promising transparency and no private security force. One mild December evening, Ellen and I sat on the porch swing, watching headlights glide past. Neighbors waved warmly now, Mrs. Lawson even brought over a plate of cookies for our trouble. I finally asked the question that had lingered. You stayed so quiet through all his provocation. Why not push back sooner? Ellen sipped her tea, eyes on the darkening sky. Bullies like Kyle thrive on reaction. If you yell, you validate their power. Real strength is control, waiting, watching, choosing the exact moment to end the threat cleanly. Noise is weakness disguised as strength. She set her mug down and took my hand. We didn't just defend our home, Robert. We reminded everyone on this street that no one gets to terrorize decent people and walk away. The night air felt clean, unburdened. The shadow that had hovered over Oak Ridge Estates was gone for good. What about you? When someone abuses power, whether it's a corrupt HOA official, a wannabe cop with a chip on his shoulder, or any petty tyrant in daily life, where do you draw the line? Is Ellen's controlled, decisive response justified self-defense, or should homeowners always wait for authorities no matter the risk? Would you have handled it differently? Drop your thoughts below. I genuinely read every comment. Let's talk about standing up to injustice when it comes knocking at your door.